and you could read about it on the internet in 2 days. So paper magazines really were taking a hit. And I think now that internet magazines, presented like a magazine, not just like a couple of pages of a website, are the way to go. And that's why synthsoftware.com is so popular, because it's really ahead of the times. And for example, one of the interviews I did, what day is it today, Monday, last weekend, is already up and promoting that band and that album who were just playing a week ago. So it's got the advantage of speed. The same applies to software and instrument reviews as well. As soon as we can get our hands on one, we can have an article up within 2 or 3 days. And that's what you want when you see the instrument in the shop. You want to have some information about it, not to wait another month and a half for a magazine on paper to tell you about it.
Absolutely.
So that's how it kind of developed through magazines to books and on to internet features.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to elaborate on the level of effort to put the Tangent Dream 50 years, the Ultimate Discography, or the Klaus Schulze one, or the Kraftwerk one. How difficult is to put one together? How difficult is to put one together?
What had happened was I had a book published in 2005 called Analog Synthesizers. And that went to a company called Focal Press. And they took a few months to put it out. It's quite thick, it's several hundred pages. And a few years later, they asked me to do an updated version. So I added another 80 pages or so, and they updated it. And they do a fantastic job, because they sell mainly to universities and libraries. And they sell 100 books at a time to a university course, something like that. And I had started reading about either having a book printed yourself. Well, let's talk about that. I think having a book printed yourself gave the idea that it's what they call vanity publishing. It's just people who want a book where nobody else would possibly take it on. So I felt it had a bit of that feeling of vanity publishing. And the other alternative of producing a book just to be read on Kindle through Amazon, in other words, it exists as a PDF and nothing else, I thought that was a bit weak as well, particularly since it doesn't support photos all that well. So I sat for a couple of years wondering what to do next with books. And I finally went to get a couple of quotes about self-printing, and it turned out to be a lot cheaper than I thought. I got a fantastic quote from a company in London. And I think what had happened, like a lot of other things, is that the technology had changed. When I'd first looked into doing it 7, 8, 9 years earlier, it was a conventional printing system, quite a lot of work involved and quite expensive to do. So you ended up with a book which would cost you quite a lot and would be difficult to sell on. But later the technology had changed. I think there's types of laser printing involved and other ways of doing the color cover and so on. So eventually I found that indeed self-publishing is worth doing. So I did 3 books in quick succession, also because of these 50-year anniversaries. 50 years of Tangerine Dream, 50 years of Kraftwerk, 50 years of Klaus Schulze. They'd all had their first album in 1970. So this was 2020. The Tangerine Dream, I compiled all my interviews that I'd done over the years, both with the band and with individual members. Then did the technical things like a list of albums and release dates and so on. And by the end of that, it was quite a decent book, a couple of hundred pages. So I had some mail order companies working on that. We sold the first batch very quickly, and then another batch, and then we did a tiny update and another batch. By that time, I thought it was going well, so I did the Klaus Schulze one, and that sold out. We did a second batch, and then the Kraftwerk, which I think was printed 3 times. So it did turn out in the end to be a good deal. Basically, the trade-off is you have to do a lot of the work yourself. I spent so much time putting books in jiffy bags and going to the post office. I mean, the post office people were starting to know me and say, "Oh, I want books, is it?" So I was going every day with books. It was hard work.
Yeah.
But of course, the advantage is instead of being on a small royalty like 8 or 12%, you're getting something like 80% markup on the book. So if you're willing to do the work, again, I think that's something that's of the moment. That was killed a bit by COVID, by the way, because international shipping costs went up a lot and the cost of paper went up a lot.
Yeah.
I haven't done what are supposed to be the next 2 books, but I think those costs might have settled down now and it might be okay to do them. But as I say, like CD, I would like to continue doing books while there's still some call for books. And eventually I'll give up and do a digital PDF version. But I can tell you now, you do a PDF version of anything, and in 10 minutes it's bootlegged.
Of course, yeah.
So there is no way to keep a PDF version of a book secure. So you can forget getting good sales if you do it for download.
Mm.
So I'm very doubtful about doing that. But if the death of the printed book comes about finally, and by the way, I mean the books I did were about half a kilo. They were quite substantial. So say I was selling them for £20. Well, it was £10 to ship one to the USA. Mm. So the shipping costs now became absolutely killing, and they're not going to go down again. So I'd like to do more books. I have 2 or 3 new titles in mind, and also I might do an update of the Tangerine Dream book. But I'll have to look at these costings and shipping again and see if it's worth doing now.
By the way, talking about Tangerine Dream, I end up interviewing a lot of people from Tangerine Dream, and what do you know what's happened with Peter Baumann? He lives in California.
I know exactly what happened with Peter Baumann. I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
Whatever you can say. You know.
Okay, well, it is if you search on the internet. She was very happy playing the Tangerine Dream.
Yeah.
73, I think. 74, 75, 76. 77, they did the big tour in the USA, which is on.
That's right.
And Peter Baumann loved the USA lifestyle, and he wanted to move there and stay there. So left, and he did a couple of projects where he had commissioned a custom digital synthesizer and sequencer, but he was also interested in singing and pop songs. So as we know, he had this short period on Virgin where he was putting out albums with singing. Repeat, I think, is the only one on Virgin. And then he decided to form his own label to support this kind of thing. So that was the private music label.
Right,
and he was catching on to what might be called more new age. Instrumental things, some of them relaxing, some of them a bit experimental, more to do with acoustics as well as electronics. Getting into the market that Windham Hill and these other so-called new age labels in the States were getting into. So he was running private music, and as we know, amusingly, Tangerine Dream ended up on Private Music for the UK. So despite the fact that Peter had left, which I think they were quite annoyed about at the time, they were happy when he was able to offer them this label deal in the USA. Well, those albums on Private Music are among the ones that people find very, very conventional and melodic. It is a little bit like elevator music. And it didn't suit the audiences in the end. You asked me something about Peter Baumann. Perhaps this is too much detail, but also Private Music, along with everybody else, got in trouble. They probably expanded as much as they could expand, and the major labels wanted to either incorporate them or step on them. So Private Music was sold, Windham Hill was sold, and within a couple of years it was over. So that was Peter Baumann's boss of label career. But what you wanted to know, what you're asking me, and the bit you perhaps don't know, and it took me a few years to pick this up. While he was working in the USA, he met the daughter of an oil billionaire from Detroit, I think, and married her.
Wow.
So not only had his label gone, but he didn't really need to work again in his life.
Wow.
So, and then he set up something called the Baumann Foundation, which is supposed to be a philosophical think tank about the future of the planet. And there is a website, but I must say it doesn't seem all that busy. And for years and years, he just did the Baumann Foundation. And then you started seeing newspaper articles. One of the most successful real estate agents in San Francisco, Peter Baumann, has just sold a $13.5 million mansion. He'd gone with his wife into real estate, basically, and that's what he's doing. So that's the Peter Baumann story post Tangerine Dream. Now, lately, of course, Paul Haslinger, who had left Tangerine Dream and gone to work on movie soundtracks in Los Angeles, got hold of Baumann, and they did a couple of projects together, one called Neuland, but Neuland was completely killed by COVID. They were just launching it as lockdown appeared, so they couldn't tour, they couldn't really effectively sell the album. So I spoke to Paul Haslinger about this just a couple of months ago, and he said, well, it was kind of squashed, but we'll do something again sometime. So Haslinger is in Los Angeles, Peter Baumann's in San Francisco. Something may happen in the future, we don't quite know. Well, of course, the other side possibility, after Edgar Froese passed away, there was a lot of talk about how will the band continue, will it continue, which people will it continue with? And some people voiced the opinion that it couldn't be a genuine band without one of the genuine members. So first there was talk that Jerome Froese should come back, to which he almost immediately said no. Then there was talk that Peter Baumann should come back. And apparently he had visited and spoken to Edgar Froese during Edgar Froese's last days. And he had kind of volunteered to come back. Now, one way or another, that didn't work out. So he might have gone back into this lineup. But again, back to the subject we were talking about earlier, 70, 71-year-old people who started in the 1970s aren't really up to going on big tours. And Tangerine Dream now under Torsten, who's a young man, is doing 30, 40 dates. I don't think you could have put Peter Baumann back into the band and expect him to do the 40 dates. They are. So there may be something else from Peter Baumann. he apparently has got some kind of studio set up again. He has done some work with Paul Haslinger.
Well, yeah.
Doesn't need to work, and the idea of going back into some kind of Tangerine Dream lineup has not happened and probably won't happen now. Now ask me about somebody else, because there's a lot about Peter Bowman.
So why your opinion, why Jerome wouldn't come back to the band? I mean, some people like the current version of Tangerine Dream, the current lineup with Thorsten, with Yoshiko and Paul, which is very good. It's different, but it's still very good. You know, I wonder why Jerome wouldn't go in.
I know the answer, but I can't possibly tell you. But
Okay,
the side answer is this. He regards his own music as being a bit different from Tangerine Dream. He calls it guitar-tronica. There's a lot of guitar processing and so on in it. And his one-line quote is, Tangerine Dream was my dad's band, and I'm not going to go into that. Now, you can interpret that any way you like, but in effect what it means is he's quite busy with his own music, and he's happy getting on with it. Now, what has happened is that he, as co-composer, has rights over certain parts of the Tangerine Dream music. So, of course, he does a lot of remix work and puts out new versions of these through his own website. So, while not being in the band, he's still doing a lot of Tangerine Dream connected things, and a lot of the fans want to pick up these new Jerome Furzer versions. So he's not unconnected.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, Peter Ulrich also ended up leaving some, I don't know, 4 years ago to do his own thing. And, you know, people have the right to do so, right?
Well, okay, there's two big differences. It's Ulrich Schnaus. When he joined, I got hold of him, and he was living in London. He was just building a new studio in his flat. It was at such an early stage that it didn't actually have a floor, so you had to walk like this over the holes in the floor. He built it eventually. So, again, he had done a couple of years with the band before COVID. And then when COVID descended, he couldn't go from London to Berlin to rehearse. And B, he just built his new studio, and it was the ideal opportunity for him to expand. Okay, I mentioned this at the time. He was the only person to join Tangerine Dream who had a very substantial career of his own behind him, because he had done many years producing, playing drum and bass music, putting out these ambient techno albums, and he could sell out quite a big theatre himself. So when COVID came, as I say, it was no longer convenient for him to go back and forth from London to Berlin to rehearse or record. He'd put in quite a few years with the band, and he had a good, substantial solo career to go back to. So, although if you count up, he'd actually done quite a few years. It was actually pretty logical for him to leave. And then one year, the Barbican in London, this guy walked on at the end, and they said, "Now we're going to have a piano solo from Paul Fricker," and everybody said, "Who?" So they were gradually easing him in. They obviously had the plan some months before, so he became the replacement for Ulrich Schnaus. Now, some people say, "Oh yes, Ulrich Schnaus, he made a wonderful contribution to the sound of the band, and we're sorry that he's going." And a lot of those people are now very happy with what Paul Frick contributes. But I mean, since 2015, it's really been the Thorsten Questioning show plus whoever else is involved. So it's kept some regularity there with Thorsten's supervision of everything. If you look at the albums, as years and years ago, you'll sometimes see that a track is by just one individual member. So you can work out what was their individual musical personality within it. And they come and they go. I don't know if there's been a track completely assigned to Paul Frick yet, but if there has, you can then tell what his musical personality is. So they all get a chance. Torsten, of course, does a lot of movie soundtracks and other things, and Hoshiko has a solo and a duo performance, which she's quite busy with, going back and forth from Berlin to Japan. So depending how deeply you want to get into it, as ever, there's been lots of side projects if you want to follow them and buy them. Steve Jolliffe is still producing. He's had a new CD this year. Then there was Loom, which was Jerome Froese and Robert Waters and Johannes Schmerling. I kind of passed over the Loom stuff. I didn't pay much attention to it when it came out, but I've caught up with it now, and the fact is this: if you like the middle period of Tangerine Dream, where they were going around Poland and playing Dominion and White Eagle and this sort of album, the thing to hear is the Loom material, because with Schmerling's melodies and Jerome Froese's guitars, and Robert Waters is very good at the sequences, it's more like Tangerine Dream than Tangerine Dream.
Yeah,
So
I know what you mean.
Get the Loom stuff, and also the sequel to that is SAW. Ada, Waters, and somebody else. Schmerling, Ada, and Waters. SAW stuff. It's very good. And what that does, it has all the melodic top line catchy stuff that is not really in the current Tangerine Dream output. Because the current Tangerine Dream output is more like what I'd call electronica. It's based on loops and sequences and things developing. But it doesn't transpose around a lot, and it doesn't have a catchy melody going up and down. And this Loom and SAW material really is more like 1980s Tangerine Dream, which captures the essence of this sequencer composition and a nice melody line going from mini mode to a flute and this kind of thing. So Loom and SAW, definitely.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I like Tangerine Dreams a lot, obviously. Many versions over the years of Tangerine Dreams, and people come and go. Ulrich Schnauz's work also is very, very good. Yoshiko and Paul, I'm very happy with them, and I'm happy that the band still exists, So some people don't like the current lineup, and, you need to respect that. And Bianca keeping the brand alive, and I'm
going to do something with. We're having a monsoon outside.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
I'm just going to try headphones.
Yeah. Or what we can do, Mark, I'm quite sure we will be talking for several more hours. So
we can go on a bit if you want to do anything else. Yeah, it's absolutely fine.
Yeah. Let's do another 5-10 minutes, and then we can do part 2, part 3, because I'm quite sure with a lot of topic we can. What's your take in the current lineup of Kraftwerk? Kraftwerk has been touring. I saw them a couple times last year here in the US, and now they're going to be touring in Latin America and some concerts in Europe as well, in Italy, I believe they're doing.
Well, I think, it's a good show for people who haven't seen it before to experience the whole thing. But once you've seen this lineup of 4 people with a podium and the projections behind them, I think you've seen it. The last time I saw Kraftwerk live, we were talking about something really mind-blowing. this was 1980 when they were doing Computer World, and these digital voices start from behind the curtain, and the curtain comes up, and you're looking at this huge V-shaped bank of equipment like the Starship Enterprise, and 4 of them standing in a line in front. And of course what they'd done is they'd built the studio Kling Klang as 2 lines of equipment, one down each wall, and they put all that in 19-inch cases, and then they pull the entire studio out to go on tour, and they push it back into this V shape on the stage, and then they connect up all the loose parts, Prophet keyboard and a Polymoog and something else, and then they can stand at the front with the stylophone and the percussion block on the long cable into the equipment. So in that date, 1980, you were seeing something absolutely stunning. Nobody had done it before. You couldn't quite see how they would build all this on stage every night. And then after that, as we moved towards the laptop and a podium, there's less and less innovation, I suppose. The fact is they make new graphics up for each tour, and they do a slight remix of the songs, but they never play a new song. They never do a new album. So, as I say, perhaps for younger people who never had a chance to see it and are very influenced by dance music, it's a fantastic show. Mm-hmm. But if you've seen this basically being done on YouTube or wherever, then kind of you've seen it, you know.
Yeah. The last show I saw them. They were touring last year in the United States, so I saw them a couple of times, and I really like. I mean, I like you, right, Mark? And you have seen my interviews. I talk to a lot of different musicians, and I have a wide range of style that I like. I mean, I'm happy with Pink Floyd, with Led Zeppelin, Peter Gabriel, electronic music, Tangerine. I'm going to be seeing Tangerine like 3 times here in the US when they tour in the fall, September, October, and I'm very likely. I'm trying to coordinate that with Bianca. I would like to interview them behind the scene for Thorsten showing the equipment. We do the tape, this machine to do this.
Well, of course, the thing about Tangerine Dream playing is that very wisely they have introduced this long improvisation section at the end of each show.
That's right.
So for those who say, oh, I don't want to see the same tunes being played over and over again, there is a whole chunk of new music each time. So not only is that good to appeal to the concert goers and say, in your case, want to go more than once or a second or third time on the same tour, but it also gives them something new to sell. So they have this huge box set out now of the last UK tour. So these the sessions have been a good innovation, and it really does make some appeal to going back and seeing the band 2 or 3 times on the same tour now. You wouldn't want to see Kraftwerk 3 times on the same tour. Well, some people might, but they're really going to get something identical each night.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And all right, we can do the following, Mark. I know it's pouring down there and Sanderson, and let's stop here, and then I will send you another email. Then we can do part 2 and then part 3, because we need to talk about your music. You know, all the stuff you have done, and you know, the early records as well, the tubular, more detail, the modular session, which is a big deal. I want you to talk about that, and especially the modular session. For sure, we'll talk about that and as well. So it sounds good.
I'm getting up to number 18 on that now. I think I've got 17.
Wow! Feel free to have it to show it if.
That's 17, which we've got at the moment. That's quite a funny one. It's called Perpetual Music. It's the CD is almost full. It's 78 minutes, and the last musical phrase is the same as the first musical phrase. So if you can make your CD player loop, or if you can convert it to an audio file and make it loop, then you can have endless music.
That's right.
It's designed in a way as background, like on one of these weird days that we have with a thunderstorm and a hailstorm outside, and it covers up your background or neighbors shouting or something else. So it's to suppress the background noise. It's quite solid music, and as I say, hopefully the idea is that some people will get it to loop endlessly. Then on the next issue, number 18, we're back to a more conventional one where a lot of people are contributing different segments of music. I forget what that was about now.
Feel free to mention your website, Mark, where people can buy your music, or any place where the people can buy your music and so forth.
Yes, it's best to just go to markjenkinsmusic.com, and I have links out there. I can sell the CDs individually, but the easiest way is the mail order companies, cdservices.com, Groove Unlimited in the Netherlands, and Q in Germany, and they'll all do things by mail order to all over the world. Obviously, for the German people, it saves on mailing costs to order it from a German outlet and so on. For anybody who's interested, I want to have some kind of new distribution in the USA. Basically, now there's a solid back catalogue of CDs. There's about 15 of mine, and there's 18 of the modular sessions. They're all packed now in these very slim card wallets. I don't put them in a thick jewel case anymore, and that's partly because of the increase in mailing costs. So I've made them as slim and lightweight as possible. So if anybody wants to take on distribution, I ship them a box of CDs. 100 CDs looks like that now instead of looking like that.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so 100 CDs, and then when they send them out to customers, it can just about go out as a letter. So I hope somebody in the USA will pick that up to help on distribution, and I'm happy to send a small package for anybody who'd like to look at them.
Yeah. All right.
Let's talk again in a few days or whenever you need to.
Yeah. Thank you very much again, Mark. Be safe. Thanks again for your help, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you again, man.
Yeah, great. Thank you.